Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone.
You've felt it before. The sudden distance, the quiet withdrawal, the inexplicable shift after everything was going perfectly. One day, you're laughing together, sharing your dreams, feeling seen, maybe even safe, and then, almost without warning, it's like a fog rolls in. You're left staring at silence where warmth used to be. It's a paradox of human connection. The closer we get to someone, the more vulnerable we become, and the more terrified they, or we, might retreat. You see, intimacy isn't a straight path. It's a labyrinth, and often, the very moments that promise closeness are the ones that trigger hidden fears. You may blame yourself. Replay every word, every smile, every pause, asking, what did I do wrong? But here's the truth no one tells you sometimes. Losing interest isn't about you at all. It's about the fragile architecture of human desire, fear, and unmet emotional needs. Understanding why someone loses interest isn't just about relationships. It's about emotional intelligence. It's about recognizing the subtle interplay between connection and fear, presence and avoidance. When you allow yourself to be fully seen, when you dare to express what's in your heart, you invite another person into the raw, unpolished version of you. And yet, vulnerability, as beautiful as it is, can feel like a double-edged sword. Some people are ready to witness it, others not so much. This isn't about blame. It's about awareness. It's about knowing the signs before the pull becomes permanent. And it's about understanding your own emotional patterns in the process. You felt the moment, haven't you? The one where connection was intoxicating, but beneath the laughter and shared stories, a subtle hesitation lingered. Perhaps it was a flicker in their eyes, a delayed text, a tone that didn't match the warmth you'd grown accustomed to. This is the psychology of anticipation versus fear. Humans crave closeness, yes, but we also fear it. The more certain a connection becomes, the more vulnerable we feel. And vulnerability, paradoxically, is terrifying for those who have yet to reconcile their own fears of inadequacy, loss, or rejection. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a cliff with someone beside you. At first, the thrill of the height is exhilarating. You're both laughing, leaning into the wind together. But then, without warning, the fear of falling, the awareness of what's at stake, creeps in. And in that moment, some will step back, retreating not because they don't care, but because they are afraid of what closeness demands. You have felt it. The longing for consistency, for reassurance, for that steady warmth. And yet, desire is not linear. Emotional interest is like a river, sometimes deep, sometimes shallow, sometimes diverted by unseen currents. When someone begins to pull away, it may not be a lack of love or admiration. It may be a fear of losing control, of being swept away by emotions they aren't ready to navigate. You've likely tried to rationalize it. Maybe they're busy. Maybe I overstepped. But the truth is often more subtle. The human psyche is wired to chase novelty and retreat from what feels threatening, even when it's good. What feels like losing interest may actually be a psychological self-preservation. Your presence, your depth, your authenticity, they may be exactly what triggers someone's unresolved insecurities. And in this paradox, you are left holding space for someone who may not yet know how to inhabit it themselves. You may have wondered, why do they seem so present one day and distant the next? This is where attachment patterns quietly shape every connection. Some people crave closeness, but panic when it becomes real. Others fear abandonment so intensely that any sign of dependency triggers a retreat. You felt that anxious flutter, the instant your heart races when a message goes unread, or when a subtle shift in tone creates a storm in your mind. It's not about you being too much or not enough. It's about the invisible scripts written long before this relationship even existed. Childhood experiences, previous heartbreaks, and unresolved fears create invisible boundaries that even love cannot always bridge. When someone loses interest after things are going well, often what you're witnessing is not a loss of affection, but a clash of emotional wiring. You are ready to dive deep, to fully invest. They may still be testing the water, afraid of how deep the river runs. You've likely interpreted subtle distance as a lack of care, and that makes sense. On the surface, withdrawal feels like rejection. But the truth is far more intricate. Humans often retreat from intensity, not because love is absent, but because fear is present. Imagine a bird, wings spread, preparing to soar. Sometimes it hesitates mid-flight, not because the sky is inhospitable, but because it senses wind currents it cannot yet navigate. People, in their emotional complexity, act the same way. The intensity of connection can feel like turbulence. Thrilling, yes, but also destabilizing. You have felt it when a person begins to pull back, texts become less frequent. Laughter is a little more distant, plans subtly shift. You ask yourself, have I done something wrong? But the reality is psychological, not personal. Fear is powerful, quiet, and often invisible. It shapes actions before the heart has a chance to speak. Here's the paradox. Their retreat is often a reflection of what's inside you, not just them. You have felt it? The way someone's distance ignites your own insecurities, your self-doubt, your need for reassurance. But here's the subtle truth: we are magnets for what we unconsciously carry. If you fear abandonment, you may notice it more acutely in others. If you fear rejection, their silence becomes amplified. This isn't blame, it's clarity. Their withdrawal mirrors the inner work waiting for you, the self-understanding you've been avoiding. You've been there, staring at your phone, heart heavy, mind racing, searching for logic in chaos. But love, human desire, and connection do not always follow logic. They follow vulnerability, readiness, and sometimes timing. And understanding this, that sometimes disinterest is a mirror rather than a verdict, shifts the lens from self-blame to insight. So, you see, the story is rarely what it seems. Losing interest after everything was going well is not always about lack of care. It's about fear, attachment, and the invisible currents of the human psyche. In the next part, we will explore how to navigate this paradox without losing yourself, how to honor your worth, and how to cultivate relationships that are not just thrilling, but sustainable. Because understanding the psychology is the first step to reclaiming your emotional power. You've watched them pull away, felt the ache, and questioned your worth. But here's the truth that most people never hear. Your value is not determined by someone else's readiness to hold space for you. You have the power to reclaim your emotional equilibrium, to recognize that their fear is not your failing. Think of yourself as a lighthouse. The storms may rage around you, waves may crash, and visibility may be low. But your light does not dim because the sailors hesitate to approach. You can remain steady, radiant, and whole, regardless of who steps closer and who retreats. By embracing this perspective, you shift from chasing approval to observing patterns. You begin to see the difference between someone's temporary withdrawal and a chronic inability to engage. You start to honor your emotional boundaries, protect your energy, and recognize that self-respect is non-negotiable. You have likely experienced this before: relationships that start with excitement but fade mysteriously. These are not random. They are reflections of hidden psychological patterns, both yours and theirs. Ask yourself, do you unconsciously attract people who cannot tolerate deep intimacy? Are you drawn to intensity that burns bright but fades fast? Recognizing these patterns requires courage, because it means facing uncomfortable truths about attachment, fear, and self-worth. Imagine a garden. Some plants flourish in the sunlight, others wither when exposed. You cannot force growth in a space that is not ready to receive it. In relationships, this principle is the same. You can nurture, support, and love, but you cannot cultivate growth where the soil is not fertile. Understanding this allows you to step